Picture this. It's the second week of May.
Oh, the classic timeline.
Right. You've just survived this long, gloomy winter, and finally, it's the first real 90-degree day of the year. You've been outside, you're sweating, and you walk through your front door expecting that, glorious, frosty wall of air-conditioned relief.
Best feeling in the world.
Exactly. But you look at the thermostat, and it says 78 degrees. You think, well, no big deal. Maybe it just wasn't set right.
Right. You give it the benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, so you drop it down to 72, grab a glass of ice water, and give it an hour. Then you walk back to the hallway, look at that little digital screen, and it still says 78.
That sinking sensation in your stomach is just universal. Your house is actively sheeting up, and you realize, okay, I have a major problem on my hands here.
The panic sets in immediately. Because your brain doesn't just see a warm house. Your brain sees a broken piece of heavy machinery.
Oh, definitely.
And it starts running a mental calculator. You are hearing the ka-ching of cash registers. Like adding up the thousands of dollars a brand new HVAC system is going to cost you.
Oh, yeah, jumping straight to the worst case scenario.
Right. In that moment, you're fully convinced the entire unit just quietly gave up to the ghost over the winter.
And that exact moment of panic plays out in thousands of homes on the exact same afternoon every single spring. I mean, it is one of the most predictable events in the home service industry.
Which is the core focus of our deep dive today. We are pulling our research directly from the field notes of Dave Hartzell.
An absolute veteran in the field.
Yeah, he's a master HVAC technician with like 45 years in the trade, running his own operation down in Kingfisher, Oklahoma. So our mission today is to entirely deconstruct this specific panic-inducing scenario.
What Dave calls the first hot day failure pattern.
Yes. Analyzing nearly half a century of his service records reveals this fascinating and honestly incredibly consistent set of data behind these springtime failures.
It really is wild how predictable it is once you look at the numbers.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah.
Because his notes give us a statistic that should honestly lower everyone's blood pressure right now.
I think people are going to like this part.
8 times out of 10, your system did not die over the winter. You are not looking at a catastrophic failure.
Right.
8 out of 10 times, it is a failure of one of 3 incredibly cheap parts. And you can actually catch it yourself in about 30 seconds if you just know where to look.
But to understand why this happens, we really have to look at the physics of a machine that sits completely dormant for half the year.
Yeah.
I mean, an air conditioning unit is subjected to extreme environmental swings without ever even turning on.
Let's visualize that dormancy. I like to think of the main compressor outside, like a star athlete.
Okay, I like this analogy.
Imagine a sprinter who is in peak physical condition at the end of the fall season. Then they decide to become a total couch potato. They just sit on the sofa for 6 straight months.
No stretching, no jogging.
Yeah.
Just sitting there.
Exactly. Then, on the first hot day of May, you drag them off the couch and demand they instantly sprint full speed up a steep hill wearing a weighted vest.
That's rough.
They need a massive jolt of adrenaline just to get their legs moving right.
What's fascinating here is how the air conditioner actually replicates that jolt of adrenaline, and the component responsible for that is called the capacitor.
The capacitor, right?
Yeah. If you've never looked inside your outdoor AC unit, it looks a bit like a shiny metal soda can with some wires attached to the top.
Kind of an unassuming little part.
Completely. But its primary function is to store this massive concentrated jolt of electricity. It basically acts like a defibrillator for that couch potato compressor.
Wow.
It gives it the heavy electrical kick it needs to overcome inertia and just start spinning.
Because, getting a heavy industrial motor to actually move from a dead stop, that requires significantly more energy than just keeping it humming once it's already in motion.
Precisely. And that brings us to the specific technical reality of how these parts age.
Right. They don't last forever.
No, they don't. Capacitors are rated in a unit of measurement called microfarads. Think of microfarads like horsepower, but for electrical storage.
Okay, horsepower for electricity. Got it.
It measures exactly how big of an electrical punch that capacitor can deliver. But these components, they don't just work perfectly forever and then suddenly snap in half.
They degrade over time.
Exactly. Inside that metal can is a liquid chemical electrolyte. Over the years, especially sitting out under the brutal summer sun, that liquid literally cooks and evaporates.
So the chemical reaction weakens, which leads to this slow, silent leak of potential energy.
Yeah, let's do the math on how this actually plays out mechanically.
Yeah.
Let's say last August, your capacitor was barely limping along.
Hanging on by a thread.
Right. It had evaporated to the point where it was operating at maybe 80% of its original rated microfarads.
Okay.
That 80% was just barely enough to keep the unit running through the end of the season, but then it sat idle all winter.
The couch potato phase.
Yep. It endured freezing nights and thawing days, which further degrades the internal chemistry. So today, on that 90-degree day in May, that capacitor might be down to 60% capacity.
And I'm guessing 60% just isn't going to cut it.
Not at all. That 60% simply is not enough of a jolt to start the compressor against what we call a high-pressure load.
High-pressure load.
Yeah, a 90-degree afternoon creates a massive amount of physical pressure inside the chemical refrigerant lines. The compressor needs its absolute maximum adrenaline shot to push against that pressure.
So if the capacitor is too weak to deliver the shot, what does the homeowner actually experience inside the house?
Well, the thermostat sends the signal to turn on. The capacitor tries to deliver the kick, but it falls short. So the heavy compressor motor just sits there, physically stuck.
Oh, no.
You will hear it loudly hum for about 5 seconds. And because the motor is trying to turn but can't, it starts pulling massive, dangerous amounts of electrical current from your house to force the issue.
Oh, wow. So it's overcompensating.
Exactly. And that huge spike in electricity safely trips the breaker in your electrical panel to prevent a fire. Then the unit goes completely silent.
And the homeowner, having heard a weird humming sound followed by total silence, just assumes the entire machine is dead.
Which is a completely logical assumption.
But since the breaker tripped, my first instinct, and probably the instinct of 99% of people listening, is to just march down to the basement, open the panel, and flip the breaker back on.
The universal first rule of troubleshooting.
Exactly. It's the IT crowd rule. If my router stops working, I unplug it and plug it back in. If a breaker trips, you reset it to see if it was just a fluke, right? Why is that bad here?
Because applying computer logic to heavy machinery is incredibly dangerous. I mean, an air conditioner is not a router.
Fair point.
When you reset a router, you are just clearing software memory.
Wait.
When you reset an AC breaker to force a stuck mechanical system to run, you are initiating a catastrophic domino effect of extreme physical heat and friction.
So a tripped breaker is a symptom, not the disease. What are the actual stakes if I ignore the symptom and just keep flipping the switch?
Well, the source points out that the wholesale cost of a standard capacitor is about $30.
Wait, $30?
Yeah, $30. And if you call a pro, the standard service call involves about 20 minutes of labor. So factoring in a standard dispatch fee and diagnostic time, a homeowner is looking at roughly $250 to fix this evaporated capacitor.
Okay, $250 is annoying, sure, but you aren't digging into your retirement savings for it.
But consider what happens when you ignore the signs and flip the breaker back on. The weak capacitor fails to start the motor again. The motor hums, it pulls massive current, it gets incredibly hot, and the breaker trips again.
Right.
You go down and flip it a third time, maybe a fourth time. Every single time you cycle that breaker to force a stuck compressor to run, you are pumping extreme electrical heat into the compressor's copper windings.
I want to clarify what those windings actually are because it really paints a terrifying picture. Go for it. Inside that compressor motor are massive coils of copper wire acting as electromagnets, and they are coated in this incredibly thin layer of insulation. When you force a stuck motor, those copper coils heat up like the bright orange wires inside a toaster.
That is a perfect visual. And pumping that much heat into the coils eventually melts that paper-thin insulation.
Sounds very bad.
It is. Once the insulation melts, the bare copper wire touches itself. The electricity crosses over where it shouldn't, and you get a massive, unfixable short circuit deep inside the motor.
Oh, man.
You have just turned a $250 20-minute repair into a permanently burned-out compressor.
And those are not cheap.
Not at all. A new compressor costs around $3,000. And if your system is more than 10 years old, a burned-out compressor often forces a total whole-house system replacement, which is closer to $8,000 or $10,000.
Wow. So simply flipping a switch 3 times because you thought it was a fluke can literally cost you thousands of dollars. The psychology of the reset is a $3,000 mistake.
Exactly. A tripped breaker on an AC unit is a safety mechanism screaming at you that a heavy piece of metal is physically stuck. Don't force it.
Okay, so if my hands are tied at the electrical panel, how do I actually figure out what's wrong without breaking it further? Let's empower everyone listening.
Yes, let's get into the diagnostic.
The source notes have a very specific 3-step checklist for a 30-second self-check.
And this sequence is brilliant because it saves the homeowner from paying a dispatch fee for a silly oversight, and it gives the arriving technician a massive head start.
Step 1.
Mhm.
The breaker panel. Walk to your electrical box. Find the breaker labeled AC or condenser. If it is completely in the on-in position, leave it alone.
Right.
But if it is sitting in the middle position, which means it tripped, you flip it all the way off, wait 10 seconds, and flip it back on. But you only do this once EE.
Yes. Just one time to check if it holds. If it trips again, you walk away. One test is diagnostic. Multiple tests are destructive.
Exactly. Step 2. The thermostat. Walk up to your thermostat, pull the faceplate off the wall, and replace the batteries. Just do it. Do this even if the digital screen is still showing numbers.
Oh, this is one of the most common misconceptions in the field. People see the digital numbers glowing and assume the battery is totally fine.
Because it looks like it's working.
Right. But powering a tiny LCD screen takes a fraction of a volt. It takes significantly more electrical muscle for the thermostat to send a physical signal all the way out to your backyard to pull in the heavy mechanical relay that starts the air conditioner.
So it can run the screen, but it can't start the engine.
Exactly. A battery that is dying physically lacks the voltage to trigger the outdoor unit.
It's such a completely hidden failure point. Just change the batteries.
It's so simple.
All right. Step 3. The auditory test. You walk outside to the big metal condenser unit in your yard. No tools required. You just stand next to it and listen.
This relies entirely on your senses. If you followed step 1, the system currently has power and is trying to run. If you stand by the unit and you hear a low, strained humming noise, but the large fan blades on the top are completely still, that is textbook behavior for a dead capacitor.
So the motor is getting the electricity from the house, but it doesn't have the adrenaline kick from the capacitor to actually spin.
You got it. Occasionally, you might even notice the fan blade looks like it's physically twitching, like it's trying to catch.
Okay, but the notes are aggressively strict on this next point. Do not stick anything through the metal grate to try and push the fan blade to get it started.
Seriously, do not use a stick, do not use a screwdriver, and under no circumstances should you ever use your fingers.
Let's keep all our fingers today, folks. If it hums but doesn't spin, your diagnostic is officially done. The capacitor is dead. Turn the system off at the thermostat and call the professionals.
But let them handle it.
But wait, what if I go outside for step 3, I stand next to the unit and there is no hum? What if it is completely 100% silent? The thermostat says it's cooling, but the box outside is dead.
If we connect this to the bigger picture of how the system communicates, that complete silence tells us the signal from your thermostat isn't reaching the muscle of the compressor.
So the middleman dropped the ball.
Exactly. That leads us to the second most common culprit, the contactor.
So what exactly is the middleman doing here?
The contactor is a heavy-duty mechanical relay switch located inside the outdoor unit. Think of it as the gatekeeper.
Okay.
When your indoor thermostat decides the house is too hot, it sends a low-voltage signal outside to the contactor. That low-voltage signal powers a magnet, which physically pulls a heavy metal switch closed.
Oh, I see.
When that switch slams shut, it opens the floodgates, allowing the high-voltage electricity from your house panel to flow into the compressor and turn the whole system on.
So it's the physical bridge between the thermostat's brain and the air conditioner's muscle.
Exactly. But because this bridge handles massive amounts of high-voltage electricity, it really suffers from wear and tear.
That makes sense.
Imagine plugging in a high-powered vacuum cleaner while it's turned on. You sometimes see a little blue spark at the outlet, right?
Yeah, I've seen that.
Well, the contactor is doing that, but with industrial-level voltage. Every time it snaps shut and pulls apart, it creates a tiny electrical arc. Over the years, those sparks cause the metal contacts to pit, burn, and corrode.
And eventually it just stops making a connection.
Right. The carbon buildup gets so thick that even when the magnet pulls the switch closed, the electricity can't flow through the corrosion. The thermostat is screaming for cooling, but the gatekeeper is broken.
Our source notes this is also an incredibly cheap fix. The part itself is about $40 wholesale, and it's another simple 20-minute swap for a technician.
Nice and easy.
But here's where it gets really interesting, and honestly, a little bizarre. The field notes mentioned another reason the contactor fails, and it has absolutely nothing to do with electrical sparks or corrosion.
Oh boy, I know it's coming.
Ants.
The insect invasion.
He literally writes that ants get inside them, kid you not, and short them out. I mean, I was stunned reading this. How does a tiny colony of ants take down a 3-ton piece of industrial machinery?
It is a surprisingly common and frankly grotesque phenomenon in the trade.
Go test.
Yeah, certain species of ants are biologically attracted to the electromagnetic fields and the physical warmth generated by these electrical relays.
Oh, so they just move right in.
They will swarm inside the small plastic housing of the contactor, and when the thermostat calls for cooling and that heavy metal switch violently snaps shut, it crushes the ants caught in the middle.
Oh man, that is brutal.
It gets worse for the machine. When crushed, those ants release alarm pheromones. Those chemical signals attract hundreds of more ants to the exact same spot to defend the colony.
Wait, really? So they just pile up?
Yep. Eventually, there are so many dead ants wedged between the metal contacts that they act as a physical insulating barrier.
No way.
The metal plates literally cannot touch each other through the pile of dead bugs, the electricity can't flow, and your system goes completely silent.
Defeated by ants. That is wild. Okay, so we've diagnosed the dead capacitor, we've replaced the thermostat batteries, we've warned everyone about the ants in the contactor.
You've covered a lot.
But even knowing it's a pile of ants or a weak capacitor doesn't change the temperature in your living room. We need a game plan while waiting for the cavalry.
This brings us to a vital mechanical distinction in the notes regarding the timeline of systemic failures. There's a massive difference between an AC failure in May and an AC failure in July.
Mechanically speaking, how does the calendar change the breakdown?
Well, in July, your unit has been running hard for 2 solid months. The failures you see in midsummer are usually severe.
Like what?
Compressors actually do die from overuse. You have major refrigerant leaks because copper lines vibrated loose. You have severe condensate drain clogs flooding basements because the system has been pulling gallons of humidity out of the air for weeks.
That was expensive.
Very. But in May, the system hasn't been under stress yet. May failures are just the weak parts giving up during their first stretch.
The couch potatoes failing the sprint test.
Precisely. May is almost exclusively evaporated capacitors, pitted contactors, tripped breakers, and dead thermostat batteries.
Okay, so if it's May, the odds are in your favor.
Statistically, yes. If your AC is dead in May, the odds are heavily in your favor that it will be a fast, cheap repair.
That is a massive relief. But you still have to wait in a sweltering house for that repair. Let's tag team the survival guide. What should a homeowner do in the 8 hours before the technician arrives?
Okay, rule number 1, turn the system entirely O-off-F at the thermostat. We cannot stress this enough.
Yeah, don't let it keep trying to start and failing, or you risk melting those copper windings we talked about earlier. Protect the compressor at all costs.
Exactly. Next, go around the house and close all your blinds, especially on the south and west-facing windows. Block the radiant heat from the sun before it enters the room.
Then, utilize your home's built-in exhaust systems. Go turn on your bathroom vent fans and your kitchen hood fan and let them run for about 10 or 15 minutes.
Heat rises, and those fans pull the hottest air out of the ceiling level and push it outside the envelope of your house. It actually makes a difference.
And bring some portable fans into whatever room you are camping out in to keep the air moving over your skin. Now, there's a crucial safety note in the outline that we really must highlight here.
Yes, this is important.
We talk about a broken AC, like frustrating inconvenience, but if the temperature inside your house is creeping over 80 degrees and you have an elderly parent living with you or an infant or someone with a heart condition, that is no longer just an annoying hot day.
No, that is an active, dangerous heat safety issue. HVAC companies take that very seriously.
So what should people do?
The notes make a point to say, tell the dispatch operator immediately if that is your situation. Service companies triage their calls like a hospital. If there's a vulnerable person in a rapidly heating house, they will bump you to the top of the list.
Which brings us to the reality of scheduling in the HVAC industry. Our source lays out what he calls the math of May, and it's a brutal timeline if you aren't proactive.
It's pure supply and demand. During the very first hot week of May, if you call, they can usually offer same-day service. The wave hasn't crashed yet.
But by the second hot week of May, after every single weak capacitor in the entire county has finally popped, the schedule fills up. They are booked out to next day service.
And by the third week of May, you're looking at a 3 to 5 day wait.
3 to 5 days in a 90-degree house is miserable. The lesson is simple. Call early. The moment you notice the temperature creeping up, make the call. Don't wait to see if it magically fixes itself overnight.
And this is why we are leaning so heavily on these specific field notes. We aren't doing a commercial for a guy in Oklahoma. We're using his business model as a baseline so you know what to look for and what to expect to pay in your own town.
Right. And he notes he is NATE certified. That stands for North American Technician Excellence. It means he passed rigorous, independent national testing, not just some online quiz.
IGS HPA accreditation is another one mentioned, which means he's mastered complex geothermal systems. Finding someone with these credentials guarantees you are getting a professional who understands the physics, not just a parts changer.
And having a baseline for transparent pricing is crucial when you're in a panic. The notes outline a $99 dispatch fee just to get the truck in the driveway and a $111 diagnostic fee to find the problem.
Which gives you a great yardstick. If a local company quotes you $300 just to show up, you know to keep calling.
Exactly. And importantly, it's noted that the diagnostic fee is usually credited toward the repair if you proceed. That level of transparent pricing is exactly what you should demand from a reputable contractor in your area.
Absolutely.
So what does this all mean? The first hot day of May is simply your air conditioner revealing what it has been hiding all winter.
It's not a mystery.
And it's usually not a catastrophe. 8 out of 10 times, it's a $30 part. Turn the system off. Do not relentlessly flip the breaker. Check your thermostat batteries. Use your ears to diagnose the hum. Call a professional early. And sit tight.
It's all about shifting your mindset from panic to process. But, understanding this mechanism raises an important, lingering question.
Oh.
We've just spent this time learning how essential components like capacitors and contactors degrade silently. They lose their capacity to function simply from temperature fluctuations, evaporating chemicals, and sitting entirely idle.
The slow, invisible leak of potential energy.
Taking that a step further, what other sleeping appliances or complex systems in your home are silently losing capacity right now?
Oh, wow.
What about the backup generator you haven't run since last fall? Or the sump pump sitting dry in the basement? What else in your house is just waiting for its own first hot day stress test to push it over the edge?
Oh, that is a slightly terrifying but very necessary thing to evaluate this weekend. They're all just waiting for their sudden sprint up the hill.
Exactly.
Well, that is a perfect place to leave it. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Our goal is always to make you the most well-informed person in the room, or at least the most well-informed person standing next to a broken air conditioner. Stay cool out there, and we'll catch you on the next one.